I am Scott Zwiezen, and I am the chef and owner of Dune, Los Angeles. I can almost name the day that I got into Middle Eastern food and then later cooking. I was a bartender in Colorado, and I had grown up for a big part of my childhood in Louisiana, where I had absolutely no exposure to any Middle Eastern food. One of my regular customers who became a friend was a Palestinian guy named Tarek. We were just casually talking one day, and he was asking me what I liked best about Middle Eastern food. I admitted to him that I was completely unfamiliar with it. He was sort of shocked, coming from his background, that somebody was absolutely unaware of an entire world of food. And he took me, I think, if not that day, then within a day or two, to this small Middle Eastern restaurant in Denver, and it was an absolute revelation. It was the best thing I'd ever eaten in my life. I became obsessed with it. To this day, you know, if I were marooned on an island and there was a small Middle Eastern restaurant, I'd be pretty pleased with that. You know, when Dune first opened, I can't tell you how many people came in here and said, "Spice." It's almost everybody. I spent a stint as a raw foodist, a raw vegan. A very dear friend and I both had the idea about the same time. Wouldn't it be great if you could just go to a grocery store and buy prepackaged raw food? And that a light bulb went off, and we started making our own. Being fans of Middle Eastern food, the very first things we made were falafels and hummus, using all raw ingredients. Adapting traditional falafel recipes to a raw batter, which were dehydrated as opposed to deep fried, and, you know, with the ethos, if you will, of raw eating, that you don't use flours and don't use these milled grains. It sort of became the bare bones of what our recipe is now: all raw chickpea, herbs, spices, garlic, and greens, which is the most traditional way to make falafel. We went through a few experiments before we finally settled on the Dune recipe, as it were, which was finalized about the night before we opened. The falafel's absolutely our signature dish. Super simple. Chickpeas, we use shallots, peppers, herbs, and garlic. A few spices. Speaking from a traditional standpoint, I love to use kale, and it's actually even better for you if it's ground up. Jalapenos. We have such amazing peppers in Southern California. It's not super traditional to put chiles in falafel, but we add them. It makes every bit of difference to me to use organic chickpeas. You soak them, rehydrate them, they will even sprout. It's amazing. And that activates certain enzymes in them. The consistency and the flavor is infinitely better. My other restaurant, which is Elf Cafe in Echo Park, Los Angeles, that is a vegetarian restaurant I co-founded with members of a band I used to play in, Viva K, and also Lumirova. When I was building Elf, I actually had no idea what to expect, but I did not expect it to be what it became. Being in a band and starting a restaurant together are kind of remarkably similar things. We had a band called Lumirova before Viva K, and so it was just a natural thing to start working on the cafe. Everybody in the band came together. We all did our part to make it happen. Then it opened and got busy quicker than any of us sort of anticipated. And it took a great deal of our energy creatively for quite some time. So as such, we dubbed it our second record. I feel that the Dune philosophy is very much similar to the Elf philosophy. We want to make the food here that we ourselves want to eat when we go out in the world. It's pretty simple to not cut corners on ingredients and just to eat clean food, drink clean water, and some clean wine. It makes a huge, huge difference in the final product. I'm a sandwich fanatic. I always have been. One of the things I enjoy the most about cooking are sandwiches. In making any sandwich, the most fundamental tenet of that is the desire to have the best bread possible. And I think it's no different in a falafel. We make our own bread here at Dune, a flatbread. Our bread isn't really like a pita, whereas many quick street vendors will use pre-made pitas. Ours is more akin to like a laffa bread or just any number of Middle Eastern flatbreads. It's actually adapted from an old naan recipe that I used to make. You can't have a good sandwich without good bread. And it's also little things like little punctuations that we're adding right now that I think are the icing on the cake, starting Turkish tea and chai service, and we've started experimenting with baklavas and desserts and things like that. The sourcing of ingredients is one of the most exciting parts about cooking in a restaurant. For me, it's a great deal about relationships, and it's about farmers and small producers. I might meet a goat farmer that has this amazing goat cheese, or one of our incredible produce suppliers is Sheerock Farm, a lady who started farming at the student farm at Valley Community College. She was selling her tomatoes, and I love them. Now she supplies Elf and Dune. Making these relationships and having them last a long time is a very worthwhile thing. And living in California, we have access to such incredible produce and dairy products. When Dune came up for lease, the landlords, I think they very much wanted someone that would fit in and help create, sort of a sense of community in this little block and help get some liveliness going here, which I think was well underway when we came in, but it's nice to be a part of it. As I mentioned, I didn't grow up a chef. I didn't study it. I just know what I like to eat. I love what I do. I feel blessed every day. I try to keep that in mind, that I'm pretty fortunate and working with incredible people. It's not just me. It's never just me. It's a lot of people working really hard together to create something.